Rex the German Shepherd lived in a quiet town where mornings smelled like wet grass and evenings felt calm and slow. He was a big dog with sharp ears and smart eyes, but the thing people noticed most was his steady, gentle nature. Rex did not bark for no reason, and he never wasted his energy showing off because he saved his best strength for the one friend who mattered to him most. That friend was an older mixed dog named Bruno who had been by Rex's side since they were both small and clumsy. They grew up near the same small house with a simple yard and a wooden fence that creaked when the wind pushed it. They learned the streets together, and they learned the people together, and they learned the little rules of their world without anyone needing to teach them. When the family walked to the corner store, Rex and Bruno walked in front like they were a team. When kids played outside, Rex watched from a distance while Bruno stayed closer to the laughter. When the summer sun became too hot, they both found the same patch of shade and rested with their heads near each other. Rex liked to run fast, and Bruno liked to sniff everything slowly, but somehow they always matched each other like they were connected. If Rex sprinted ahead, Bruno would bark once and Rex would circle back. If Bruno stopped to drink water, Rex would stop too and look around like a guard. Their friendship felt simple to everyone who saw it, but it also felt rare, like something pure that did not ask for anything except time together. As the seasons changed, the family noticed Bruno was changing too. His face turned more gray around the mouth, and his eyes looked softer and heavier. At first it was small things like Bruno choosing shorter paths or taking longer to stand up after a nap. Then it became bigger things like him skipping meals or ignoring the sounds that once made him curious. Bruno still tried to follow Rex because that was his habit and his pride, but he could not keep the same pace. Rex noticed every change without needing anyone to point it out. He started walking slower, even when nobody told him to. He stopped running at full speed and instead kept his body close to Bruno, like he was making sure Bruno would never feel alone on the path. Rex also began watching Bruno in a different way, like he was counting breaths and listening to tiny sounds. When Bruno coughed, Rex would lift his head at once. When Bruno sighed, Rex would press his nose to Bruno's shoulder. Rex did not understand the words the family spoke inside the house, but he understood their tone, and he understood the worry that filled the air. The family brought fresh water more often and placed soft blankets near the porch. They offered Bruno treats and spoke to him with a warm voice. They patted Rex too and told him he was a good dog, but Rex did not care about praise in that moment. His attention stayed on Bruno, as if Bruno was the center of the whole yard. One evening the sky turned orange and gray, and the wind felt slow and heavy. Bruno stepped outside and tried to cross the grass, but his legs shook under him. He paused and looked at Rex as if he wanted to keep going, but his body was tired. Rex moved closer and stood beside him without pushing and without pulling. Bruno took another step and then another, but the strength left him and he lowered himself down. It was not a dramatic fall, and it was not loud, but it carried a deep meaning that Rex seemed to feel instantly. Rex lowered his head and pressed his forehead against Bruno's neck. He made a soft sound that was not a bark and not a growl, but something gentle and broken. The family came out fast when they heard the sound. They knelt beside Bruno and touched him carefully while speaking in quiet voices. Someone reached toward Rex as if to guide him back inside, but Rex refused. He did not show anger and he did not act wild, but he planted his paws and stayed. He lay down beside Bruno and placed one paw across Bruno's front legs, as if he was holding him in place and holding him in love at the same time. The family tried to offer water, and Bruno drank only a little. They tried to lift him, but he resisted in a weak way, and it was clear he wanted to stay right there. Rex did not move an inch even when the porch light turned on and the night air grew cooler. The night became darker and quieter, and the yard sounded different without the usual movement. Rex stayed awake and watched the shadows beyond the fence. Every so often he leaned in and touched Bruno with his nose just to check that he was still there. Bruno breathed slowly, and his chest rose and fell like a tired wave. Rex shifted his body so the wind would hit him first and Bruno second. It looked like a simple position, but it was a choice made with purpose. When the family tried again to call Rex inside, he ignored the call. He did not want food, and he did not want comfort, and he did not want rest unless Bruno could rest too. The family gave up and brought a thicker blanket and placed it over Bruno carefully. Rex stayed close and tucked his body against Bruno's side. He looked up once toward the house window where the family stood watching. His eyes were calm but serious, like he was asking them to understand. Then he looked back at Bruno and stayed still again. In the middle of the night, a light rain began to fall. It was not heavy, but it was enough to darken the ground and make small sounds on the leaves. Rex lifted his head and licked Bruno's face gently. Bruno opened his eyes for a moment and looked at Rex with a tired softness. Rex licked him again and then laid his head near Bruno's chest. The rain cooled the air and the town went silent. Rex did not sleep deep because he kept reacting to every small change in Bruno's breathing. When Bruno shifted, Rex shifted. When Bruno stopped moving for a longer moment, Rex rose and nudged him lightly until Bruno gave a small response. Rex was not trying to force Bruno to get up, and he was not trying to deny what was happening. He was simply refusing to let Bruno face the moment alone. The family watched from inside and felt their throats tighten because they had never seen loyalty look so clear. As morning approached, the rain stopped and the clouds broke apart. A pale light spread over the yard and the grass looked fresh and cold. Bruno tried to lift his head, but it trembled and he rested it again. Rex stood up and stretched slowly, then he walked a short circle around Bruno like he was checking the yard for safety. He returned and sat down facing the street with his back near Bruno's body. He looked like a guard at a door. The family stepped outside quietly and placed a bowl of water near Bruno. They spoke to Bruno softly, and then they spoke to Rex too. Rex did not turn toward them for long. He glanced once to show he heard them, and then fixed his gaze back on the street, as if he believed his job was not finished. The family realized in that moment that Rex had already decided something deep inside his heart. He was going to stay near Bruno no matter how long it took and no matter how painful it felt. It was not a command, and it was not training, and it was not reward. It was pure love built from years of shared days and small memories. And as the sun climbed higher, Rex lowered his head once more and pressed it against Bruno like a promise that would not break. The morning air felt quiet and heavy, as if the whole town knew something important was happening. Rex remained beside Bruno as the light grew stronger and birds slowly returned to the trees. The grass around them was damp and cool, and Bruno's breathing sounded weaker than before. Rex watched Bruno's chest rise and fall, and every movement mattered to him. He stayed alert and still, like time itself was standing with him. The family stood a few steps away, unsure of what to do next. They spoke softly and moved slowly because they did not want to disturb the moment. Rex could feel their presence, but his focus never left Bruno. He leaned closer and pressed his body against his friend to share warmth. Bruno's eyes opened for a short moment, and he looked around as if searching for something familiar. When he saw Rex, his eyes softened and his body relaxed a little. Rex licked Bruno's face slowly and gently and then rested his head near Bruno's neck again. It felt like a quiet conversation without words. As the hours passed, Bruno's strength faded more. He no longer tried to stand, and he no longer lifted his head much. Rex noticed every small change and adjusted his position again and again. When the sun moved, Rex shifted to block its heat from Bruno's body. When the wind changed, Rex turned so Bruno would not feel the cold. Rex ignored his own hunger and thirst because his heart was busy guarding something more important. The family brought food and water for Rex, but he only sniffed it and turned away. One of the family members sat on the ground nearby and watched with wet eyes. They had seen many kinds of love in their life, but this one felt pure and powerful. Rex did not cry or panic, and he did not act confused. He acted like he understood that this moment was about staying, not about fixing. Bruno's breathing became shallow and slow, and Rex stayed closer than ever. He placed his paw gently over Bruno's front leg again, just like the night before. That small action looked simple, but it carried years of friendship. People from nearby houses began to notice the quiet scene. Some stopped by the fence and watched silently. No one spoke loudly, and no one tried to interrupt. The air felt respectful, like a shared understanding. Rex lifted his head once and looked at the people beyond the fence. His eyes were calm but filled with something deep and serious. Then he looked back at Bruno and stayed still again. Bruno breathing paused longer between each breath and Rex responded by nudging him lightly. He was not trying to force anything, he was only checking that Bruno was still there. When Bruno responded with a small movement, Rex relaxed again. The family knelt beside Bruno and spoke his name softly. Bruno's ears twitched slightly, but he did not open his eyes. Rex leaned in closer and rested his head against Bruno's chest. He listened carefully like he was counting each breath. The sound of Bruno breathing grew faint but steady. Time felt strange in that yard, like it was moving slower than usual. Rex's memories seemed to rise inside him even if he did not understand them as memories. He remembered running with Bruno as a young dog. He remembered sharing food and sleeping under the same tree. He remembered barking together at strangers and feeling safe together at night. Those moments lived quietly inside him and gave him strength to stay. Bruno's body relaxed more and his breathing softened further. Rex stayed alert and strong even though his body was tired. The family watched the connection and felt their hearts ache. They understood now that Rex was not refusing help out of stubbornness. He was choosing loyalty because that was who he was. The sun climbed higher and the yard filled with warm light. Rex blinked slowly but did not sleep. His body leaned into Bruno like a shield and a comfort. Then something changed. Bruno's breathing slowed even more and there was a long pause. Rex lifted his head at once and pressed his nose to Bruno's face. He nudged him gently and waited. When Bruno did not respond right away, Rex made a soft sound again. It was quiet and low and full of feeling. The family held their breath and stayed still. After a moment Bruno's chest moved again but weaker than before. Rex relaxed just a little but did not pull away. He placed his paw back on Bruno's leg and stayed. Minutes passed like hours. The yard felt silent except for the sound of Rex breathing and Bruno's faint breaths. Rex leaned in and licked Bruno one last time slowly and carefully. Bruno did not move but his body felt calm. Rex stayed close and rested his head down. He did not know what would come next but he knew he would not leave. When Bruno's breathing finally faded, Rex felt it before anyone else. He lifted his head and waited. He nudged Bruno again and then again. There was no response this time. Rex stayed still and watched and listened. The family stepped closer with tears in their eyes. Rex did not panic and he did not cry out. He simply stayed there touching Bruno like he was waiting for him to wake. After a long quiet moment, Rex lowered his head and rested it gently on Bruno's body. His posture changed slightly and his energy softened. He stayed there like that for a long time, unmoving. The family understood that Rex knew. They did not rush him and they did not pull him away. They let him stay and say goodbye in his own way. The sun continued its path across the sky and the town returned to its normal sounds. But in that yard, time had already done what it came to do. Rex stayed beside Bruno until his body finally relaxed. When he slowly stood up, he did not walk away right away. He looked down at Bruno once more and then sat beside him. His ears lowered and his eyes looked tired but peaceful. He had kept his promise. He had stayed until the very end. After a long while, Rex finally moved his body away from Bruno, but his eyes never left him. He stood slowly as if every step carried weight and meaning. The yard felt empty in a way it never had before, even though everything looked the same. The fence still stood, the tree still gave shade, and the house still watched quietly from behind. Rex walked a small circle and then returned to Bruno's side again. He sniffed the ground and then sniffed Bruno gently like he was memorizing him. The family stayed close and allowed Rex to do what he needed. No one spoke because words felt too small for the moment. Rex lowered himself again and rested beside Bruno, not touching this time but close enough to feel near. His breathing slowed and his ears stayed low. The connection between them still felt strong even though Bruno no longer moved. As the day passed, Rex stayed in that spot, refusing to leave. The family brought him water and food again, and this time he drank a little. He did not eat much but he accepted the care. He looked tired in a way the family had never seen before. His eyes carried a deep quiet sadness but also a calm strength. People who passed by slowed down and looked with gentle faces. Some whispered kind words and some simply nodded with respect. Rex noticed them but did not react. His world felt smaller now and centered around the place where Bruno lay. The family gently prepared what needed to be done, but they waited for Rex to be ready. They understood that this goodbye mattered and it could not be rushed. Later in the afternoon, the family carefully lifted Bruno's body. Rex stood up at once and moved closer. He did not growl or resist, but he followed every movement closely. His body stayed near, as if he was still guarding his friend. When they carried Bruno toward the quiet corner of the yard, Rex walked beside them step by step. His head stayed low and his pace was slow. When they placed Bruno down again, Rex sat beside him and watched. The family spoke softly and touched Rex gently. Rex accepted the touch but did not look away from Bruno. When the moment came and the family stepped back, Rex remained sitting still. He stayed until everything was done and the yard became quiet again. After that, Rex did something small but powerful. He walked to the place where Bruno used to rest and lay down there alone. He curled his body tightly and rested his head on the ground. The space felt empty but familiar. Rex stayed there for a long time, not sleeping and not moving much. The family watched from a distance and gave him space. They could see that Rex was not lost. He was remembering. He was holding onto something that could not be seen. The evening light softened and the sky turned gentle shades of color. Rex finally lifted his head and looked around the yard. Everything felt quieter now. The fence no longer echoed with two sets of paws. The shade felt larger and lonelier. That night Rex did not sleep inside. He stayed outside near the same spot where Bruno had rested for years. The family brought him a blanket and placed it nearby. Rex lay on it but kept his head facing the yard. He listened to the sounds of the night and stayed alert like always. Sometimes he lifted his head quickly as if expecting Bruno to move or make a sound. When nothing happened, he rested again. His loyalty did not end when Bruno's body stopped moving. It simply changed shape. It became memory and presence and quiet strength. The next morning, Rex walked the yard slowly. He sniffed the air and paused at familiar places. He stopped near the fence where Bruno liked to sit and near the tree where they rested together. Each spot carried a story and Rex felt them deeply. The family walked with him and spoke gently. Rex listened and stayed close. He still did not play and he still did not run. But he did not refuse food anymore. He began to accept care again step by step. The family understood that healing did not mean forgetting. It meant learning how to carry love forward. Over the next days, Rex slowly returned to small routines. He followed the family on short walks and rested near the porch. He still chose the same places where Bruno had once been. Sometimes he stared at nothing and sometimes he sighed softly. The family watched closely and stayed patient. They spoke Bruno's name sometimes and Rex's ears lifted when he heard it. He did not look confused or upset. He looked calm and aware. He remembered. Rex also began to show gentle affection to the family more than before. He stayed close and leaned into them like he understood that they were grieving too. One afternoon, a small dog from a nearby house wandered near the fence. The dog barked playfully and wagged its tail. Rex watched quietly. He did not react at first. Then he stood up and walked closer. He did not grow tense or alert in a guarding way. He simply observed. The small dog stopped barking and sat down. Rex sat too. They looked at each other in silence. Rex did not play, but he did not push the dog away. It was a simple moment, but it showed something important. Rex's heart still had room. It was shaped by loss but not closed by it. As weeks passed, Rex's strength returned slowly. He ate more and walked farther. His eyes still carried depth and memory, but they also carried warmth. The family saw that Rex had changed, but not in a broken way. He had grown deeper and calmer. He carried Bruno with him in every step. Every place they had shared now lived inside Rex. And even though one body was gone, the bond remained strong and unbroken. Rex had taught everyone who watched that true loyalty does not end with goodbye. It stays and transforms and continues quietly forward. Time continued to move forward gently, and Rex learned to move with it one slow step at a time. The yard no longer felt painful, but it still felt meaningful. Rex chose his resting places carefully, and many of them were the same spots he once shared with Bruno. He did not avoid those places, and he did not cling to them either. He simply accepted them as part of his world. The family noticed how Rex's behavior had changed in a quiet, strong way. He listened more and reacted less. He stayed close to the family and followed them with calm patience. His eyes no longer searched the yard in confusion. They looked settled, as if he understood something deeper about life now. One morning the family opened the gate and Rex walked out confidently. He paused for a moment and looked back at the yard. He sniffed the air and then continued forward. The walk felt different but not wrong. Rex moved at a steady pace and enjoyed the sounds of the street. Birds flew above and leaves moved in the wind. Rex noticed everything like he always had. When the family stopped, Rex stopped too. He did not pull and he did not rush. He stayed connected to their steps. People passing by smiled at him and some recognized him. They spoke kindly and Rex responded with calm eyes. His presence felt peaceful to those around him. Later that day the family brought something new into the yard. It was a small plant placed near the fence where Bruno liked to rest. The family knelt down and worked carefully. Rex watched closely and then walked over to sniff the plant. He circled it once and then sat nearby. The plant did not replace anything and it did not try to. It simply stood there quietly. Rex accepted it as part of the space. Over time Rex returned to that spot often and rested nearby. The plant grew slowly just like Rex healing. Both took time and care and both stayed rooted in the same ground. As weeks turned into months, Rex continued to show gentle strength. He played a little again and enjoyed simple moments. He chased leaves for short bursts and then rested with a satisfied sigh. The family laughed softly when they saw these moments. They knew Rex was not forgetting. He was remembering with peace instead of pain. Rex also became more protective of the family in a calm, steady way. He stayed near children and watched quietly. He listened carefully to voices and movements. His loyalty had not disappeared. It had expanded. One evening the family sat outside as the sun lowered. Rex lay near them with his head resting on his paws. The sky turned warm colors and the air felt soft. Rex looked toward the fence and then back to the family. His eyes looked content. The family reached out and touched him gently. Rex leaned into the touch and closed his eyes for a moment. He felt safe and understood. In that peaceful moment, it felt like Bruno's presence was still there, not as a body, but as a feeling that lived quietly within Rex. Another dog later joined the family after careful thought and patience. The dog was young and curious and unsure of the world. Rex watched from a distance at first. He did not rush and he did not withdraw. He observed quietly. Over time Rex approached and sniffed gently. He did not play rough and he did not assert dominance. He showed calm leadership. The young dog followed his cues and learned from him. Rex shared space and allowed companionship without replacing anything. He carried his past with respect while making room for the present. The family noticed that Rex often rested near the young dog in the same way he once rested with Bruno. The position was familiar and comforting. Rex seemed to guide the young dog, gently teaching patience and calm. It was not the same bond, and it did not need to be. It was new and it was honest. Rex's heart had learned how to love again without losing what came before. Years later Rex grew older too. His steps slowed and his face showed signs of time. The family stayed close and cared for him just as he had cared for Bruno. Rex rested near the fence often and watched the plant grow taller. The yard felt full again, not because nothing was lost but because love had stayed. Rex's life had become a quiet story of loyalty and strength. Everyone who knew him remembered the way he stayed beside his friend until the end. When Rex rested under the shade on warm afternoons, his eyes often closed peacefully. His breathing stayed calm and steady. In those moments it felt like he was not alone. It felt like his heart remembered everything it needed to remember. Rex had shown that true loyalty does not need words or rewards. It only needs presence. And even when goodbye comes, love continues in the quiet choices made every day.